welcome to the temple. Welcome to our meditations. It's great to have you all here. Let's dive straight into our opening ceremony. So, as we enter the temple, I know we've done this often, but that's one of the wonderful things about ritual, is it gives you a chance to revisit the best parts of it from each time you've done it. So, as we enter, I invite you to just set the intention. This is a time, this is a space for something special and wonderful for yourself. This is a time to connect with the most tranquil, wise, wonderful, powerful part of you. So welcome everybody. Let's take our intention setting to another level. We learn and we practice to benefit ourselves. And may the practice and the contemplations that you do tonight, may they be awesome for you. May they be mind transformative, emotionally liberating and wonderful. But I hope we also set the intention for something bigger. May the peace and goodness that you cultivate bring happiness and goodness to other people. And let's just take a moment. Can you imagine if everybody in the world was taking some time to practice some peace and some kindness and some mindfulness? Let's set the intention that what we practice today is a step towards that awesome world. Great. Well, welcome everybody. It's wonderful to have everybody here. I wanted to dive straight into discussing some things that I've been asked this week from the community. So I'm going to be addressing some misconceptions that perhaps were not clear in how I presented some of the practices and ideas. And also we had some questions about going with the flow and acceptance. But first I want to address a misconception that somebody said to me. They said, I think I'm deeply in disagreement with you that we can just transform ourselves straight away. Things take lots of practice. And I said, well, actually there's no disagreement there at all. I'm all about training our minds regularly. With the caveat that sometimes you can take a different approach and get a wildly different result. If we're open to fast change, we're more likely to have it. But then with whatever changes you set your intention on, we continue to practice them and cultivate them. Now, what I just shared can be relevant to our meditation practice. It could be relevant to how our emotional life is. That perhaps you may hear an idea about happiness and just be struck with a moment of joy. But perhaps happiness meditation might require contemplating and cultivating happiness every day for weeks or months before you start to tap into happiness that you can just grow and grow and grow. If it comes to being confident, transforming from shyness to massive confidence, perhaps you might hear an idea that just changes your perspective, and you go out and that idea just forefront of your mind, and then you're able to just go out and have a fun time. But perhaps you need to meditate and rehearse that positive perspective every day for weeks or even months for it to transform you. But one thing I really want to emphasize is I like to have the idea of instant change, because if the thing you're practicing is slow change, for example, if someone's really shy and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a little less shy, they could think about that and meditate on that for hours a day. And the result they'll get in months is to be a little less shy. Whereas if they were contemplating and imagining how good it would feel, how at ease it would feel to just be relaxed wherever they went, if they meditated on that for months, they're going to get the result of learning to be at ease or expressive. And similarly, when it comes to meditation, if you're envisaging being able to concentrate and still the mind, that's what you will practice and learn. If you're envisaging that you just sit there and over 10 lifetimes your mind will settle, then maybe you'll get a little bit of settling sometimes. So I guess what I really wanted to emphasize is that I hope every one of us takes the idea when we think about ourselves to know that things take practice. They call it a meditation practice. But also be open to and excited and envisage the end result. Like right now, if you were to imagine compassion meditation and think of a world where everybody was kind and caring and that you were wonderfully patient and full of warmth. If you imagine yourself being like that and us working towards a world like that, the kind of impact of just that little bit of meditation is great, as opposed to if you think of compassion meditation and, oh yeah, it's a practice that people do. Like, by making it real and vivid and envisaged and wonderful, it impacts us more powerfully and quicker. Before I go on, does anyone have any questions or comments about what I've said so far? Can I see with a little wave? Could you apply what I was saying to some things about yourself or your life or your practice? Or did it sound very abstract? Can you wave if it sounded applicable for some of you? So let me give some more examples of what I'm talking about. If somebody is talking about how meditation can bring beautiful peace, I would hope that you would try to imagine beautiful peace. And if you get that idea and you're like, what is that even like? Try to just keep imagining it. Let your brain cells start to grow and forge a new path. And it might take a minute, of like contemplating what beautiful peace would be like before you start to feel it or glimpse it. And then once you're like, oh wow, that would be really nice, two things happen. Perhaps your brain's already ready to start having beautiful peace. Or you're like, hey, I've glimpsed that now. And now as I practice beautiful peace every day, or if I think about cultivating self-change, I've got this concept of beautiful peace that I can keep growing and diving into and feeling more wonderfully. Likewise, if I talk about happiness meditation and just being able to smile at will and cultivating a feeling of joy that you can just make bigger and happier and more joyful. Like that sounds pretty far out to someone who normally lets their emotions just respond to stuff. So letting yourself actually imagine, wow, what if I did get my consciousness that I could just crank up the dials of happiness. Wow. And like that might take minutes or days to imagine. But I thoroughly encourage you, when you hear someone make a claim of meditation that sounds wonderful, try to envisage and conceptualize and feel that wonderful idea. Because sometimes just contemplating it is enough to open the door to be able to do it. And like I said, contemplating and seeing it can then also give you the motivation and the thing that you want to practice. So there's a couple of examples with meditation. I really strongly hope that the idea of being your own mental engineer, your own thought artist, that becomes an idea that you carry into every part of you, whether that's how you make your meditations, how you make your emotional life, how you play sport, how you do art, how you learn, how you communicate. Every part of you, I want you to bring that part, that mindset of, okay, what am I practicing here? What am I choosing here? Let me notice what my old thoughts and habits and emotional patterns are, and bring my creative freedom to every part of me. I'm just going to give everyone a moment just to contemplate that. For some of you who've been around meditation, that might seem obvious. But even so, I want you to envisage, like, well, what if you did that more powerfully? What if you felt more liberated and able to, like, just dive into more inspiring feelings or more empowered approaches within yourself, or confident certainty in what you visualize? And if it's not an idea that you've been used to, wow, I can actually like design myself in whatever part of my life. I want to just keep saying that until it kind of gets etched more into your brain. Like, you really can design how you're going to feel in different situations, or how you're going to perform. Like, you look at elite athletes, and they practice in their mind. They envisage being great. And then they also go out and like practice with their body. And by envisaging being awesome and then training it into their body, those two combined gets much better results. And I hope you take that same approach into every aspect of your life. I want you to be envisaging bliss and happiness and ease and confidence. I want you to feel skillful and suave and in control in all the activities that you do. I want you to fill your life with loving patience, kindness, and joy. In any and every other part of your life, I really hope that you bring easeful, beautiful creativity. I'd love to hear somebody, if you have like a story or a reflection or a question about what we've shared so far. Dark Hyper?
Yeah, I remember one of your classes a few months ago. You were talking about it was like program cards or something, kind of like affirmations that you write and you'd carry around you. And this kind of reminds me of that, because you'd read it to yourself and you'd envision yourself. And then, for me, it worked. I found myself. I wrote, "I am a great Buddhist." then I found myself meditating more and stuff like that. I didn't know what to write down, but I wrote them. So that's what
Wonderful.
that reminds me of.
Did you try it with any other ideas other than I'm a great Buddhist?
I'm a great student.
How's your student life transformed since then?
Well, I have, I guess, maybe more confidence in my abilities, regardless of like the results I bring out, because I've never been like an entirely good student.
That's great to hear that you're confident. So maybe some other brain programs you might want to try around studies is that like you find your teachers fascinating, and that you really love to get this feeling of understanding, like strong accomplishment. Like you love to ask yourself questions and see if you understand things in a way that's solid. You might also like some brain programs that your inner world is really vivid. You can see and conceptualize everything that's being shared. You might also something like, I love being in class. I really enjoy the atmosphere of learning and sharing. I love taking tests. It's just fun to put myself to the challenge to explore what I know and how can I express it. And so I hope with each area of our life, you give yourself a bit of creativity to be like, what are some attitudes or habits or feelings that would make each part of my life easier, funner, better? So Dark Hyper, it's great to hear that has been helpful for you, and I just wish that you continue to level that up, make things that make you feel even better, and get you even better results.
I actually haven't heard of that strategy before. Is that like just writing affirmations in places you'll find them again?
So the strategy we were talking about specifically was having them in some format that you'll have them with you, and that you'll intentionally read them 3 times a day. So the person who taught me put it on like business cards, 3x5 cards, and you just had a deck of like 5 or 10 that you just carried with you all the time. Like phone, keys, affirmation cards. They didn't call them affirmations. because the connotations of affirmations are slightly different. They called them self-instructions. Like, what are you telling yourself? And yeah, you rehearse what you want to feel, what you want to be, and you rehearse it exactly as you want. And yeah, there's lots of other approaches around that, like putting up inspirational messages or positive messages in places you'll see them, putting them on reminders on your device, on your phone or your computer, getting more music that has ideas and concepts you want to like enjoy and play more often. But something that blows my mind, like that put me entirely on this path, is if we practice many times, often, a transformation, how powerfully we can just forge the path in our brain to get there. Culturally, there are a few places where we know that works. It's gotten kind of famous in the last decade to do gratitude exercises every day. And people find, it sounds, to someone who hasn't practiced it, I'm grateful for my friends, I'm grateful for food, I'm grateful that I'm safe. It's kind of boring and lame. But if you do it every day, in a few weeks, you're like, oh my God, isn't it so good that we are in a place where we're safe? Oh my God, we're so blessed. Like, the gratitude just grows wildly. And that's something that is kind of culturally known. Gratitude is an exercise. And then compassion meditation, if you've been around Buddhist circle or some Buddhist circles or some yoga circles, that's a practice that people know that if you do a lot, gets wildly good. But it's wild to me that that same approach can be used for happiness or confidence or how you feel in classes or your attitude towards meditation or your attitude to your mum or like whatever you want. What you train repeatedly just gets wildly strong after doing it for a few weeks. 3 times a day for a month is what I've seen to be the most like solid plan. I've had some changes. I did it for a few days and I'm like, whoa, I'm transformed. And then I'm like, I don't even need to practice that anymore. And then the old habits kind of slip back in. So I found that if you want to flick the switch for your brain from one way to the other way, 3 times a day for a month, boom, you will have transformed your habit, your feelings, your attitude. So thanks for asking for clarification, Claxon. If there's one thing that I would wish for everyone here would be to try that with a couple of changes or with 10 or 20 or 100 changes and just be blown away how powerfully your mind can switch if you just forge that path. Pops, did I see you had a question?
I just wanted to say, like you were saying, continued consistent effort every day is the path to transformation.
Absolutely, and also try and couple it with the thing that you're practicing. Make it fun or beautiful or easy. When I was studying psychology, they had found that when people had really significant experiences, they had a list of things that often really impacted people. And they found that that was often a time of a lot of change. And so my hope is that every time you sit down and imagine I'm a great Buddhist, you're like, oh, enlightenment for all, yeah. Like you just try and make it epic, whether you make it funny or powerful or devout. You just, each time you make it as impactful as you can. Like just engage all your imagination and creativity. Just before you arrived, Pops, we were talking about using mental training to be relaxed and comfortable with everybody. So If you were doing some kind of training about that, you'd imagine like just how good would it feel if I just completely forgot about judgment and like people feeling awkward, and just every bit of my feeling was like, hey, I make a good time for everybody. I have a good time. I'm relaxed. I'm happy. Wow. It's just so good to just create an environment where people feel good. And like make that a beautiful idea, so that as you practice that idea each day, you're like, yeah, I'm just like this ball of good vibes wherever I go, and I love it.
I think that can be a little bit of a challenge for some people because in certain environments you have to center yourself. Like for me personally, it can be hard to embrace like a general concept like that. And then it's like, I'm going to talk different to my mother than I'm going to talk differently to my friend. So just like talking before I think kind of mindset. I don't know if that's what you're saying, but that's kind of, I don't know.
That's an awesome response. And there's two things that I would like to say. I hope that you can still just prioritize, I'm going to get it so that I feel good everywhere. And your brain might throw up objections, like what about these hard situations, blah, blah, blah. Just decide that for the minute that you're doing the brain programming, hey, I'm just going to like put all that aside, and I'm forging ahead to be the kind of person that just feels relaxed and at ease. And Pops gave us like some example, but many different places where you want to change, there might also be these other reasons not to. You might, I'm a good student, but then you might have been like, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to put out any negative ideas, but you could imagine somebody having some negative ideas about school or study, but you're like, hey, no, just for now, I know that if I flick that switch to being someone who enjoys learning and studies well, that will be better. So you're just like, hey, I'm just choosing to go there, and I'm forging the way there. Then Pops makes another good point, that he doesn't want to just be like party time laughing everywhere, like he's got to be at work and he's got to be with his mum. And so you can also have fine-tuned programs. So yeah, you have this program that you feel relaxed and good vibes everywhere, and then you could also visualize how's the most magnanimous, patient, wonderful, supportive way to be with your mum, and what's the most professional, strong leadership mode that you want to take to work. So if you ever notice yourself saying, but, just like say, hey, stop that for a minute. I'm choosing to forge somewhere else. I want to feel relaxed and happy and comfortable everywhere. And then when you think of like different specifics, you can also practice how you want to be there. I'll give you an example. A very, very physical, practical example. I used to be very uncoordinated. I was teased for how uncoordinated I was, and was always picked last on the sports teams. And then I started to have this self-instruction that I'm really in control of my body. I'm balanced, I move, I'm aware of my space. And over that month, I stopped doing uncoordinated things and started being a lot more confident and empowered in my body. But then I was playing field hockey. So I'd also have a brain program 1 month where I imagined that I was just really good at moving the ball past a bunch of people. And then I found myself, it was almost like magical. Like I would imagine that I'd have the ball and I'd be able to just tackle my way through like 6 other people. And I remember after doing that a few times, one of my teammates was like, what is going on with you? You're like going along and then just suddenly the whole other team is just all on you, and then you just power out past them. So yeah, one of the reasons I said, Claxon, that I'm not into using the term affirmation is that some people in that school of people describe it as magical. Like you envisage the whole team being on you and you beat them, and then that's going to happen. And while I did find that happens sometimes, I also find that a lot of people who take that approach, they expect magical transformations rather than practical transformations. What skill can I learn? What emotion can I learn? What mindset can I have? What kind of atmosphere can I create? And that's stuff that you can succeed at. These like magical changes, people find they happen, but that might just be confirmation bias. Like there's lots of other affirmations or brain programs I did which were epic and wild, and while many of them made good changes happen, I just remember the one time where I imagined something epic and then somebody noticed it. But yeah, my point, the point was, sorry, I rambled a little there. My point was, I programmed myself to feel confident and in control in my body. And then I also applied it to my stick control in field hockey. And I also applied it to playing tennis. And I also applied it to how I run each day. And each one of those, I had a different card with a specific idea of the thing that I was rehearsing. So yeah, ultimately I'd love every one of us to have 5 to 10 cards every month. And for the rest of your life, you just keep awesomely leveling up how you feel, how skillful you are, how amazing your meditation is, how beautiful the bliss is that you can tap into, how wonderful your caring is with friends, how wonderful your caring is with strangers. If you would just sit and brainstorm and just write out any little idea of how you'd like to improve yourself or your life, you could probably write thousands of things. So I hope that you take those, but the most exciting ones of those, and start practicing them and envisaging them. But I also really want to emphasize, when we are practicing things in our mind, it's important to look at what are you actually practicing. Pops just said, I'm not sure if I could just be at peace everything because of these reasons. What if somebody wanted the idea to make things easier socially? So I'll tell you a story. For myself, feeling awkward and shy, for years, I was brain programming before I learned about brain programming, and just being like, if only people could see what I was really like. I'm a nice guy and I've got funny ideas. If only they'd see that. But then when I'd go and hang out with people, like, I wasn't being the expressive, at ease person that I was envisaging. Because what I was actually practicing was that I'm still nervous and awkward and a loser, but if only there was this thing. So for years, I was just continuing to practice and reinforce this like very unenjoyable way of being. And then I learned about brain programming and learned that you should practice the actual result that you want. And so I started to imagine, wow, it feels good to be relaxed around people. It feels good to be focused on caring about people. It feels really nice to want what's best for others and make conversations about that. And for my feelings and my thoughts to just be guided by that. And if you think of like all the different forces in your brain, there's this shyness, there's confidence, there's caring, there's some funny story you saw, there's some meme you could tell a story about, there's some thought of, what are they thinking of me? There's all these different competing forces that could be happening in any conversation, I hope that you make the helpful forces big and epic. I want you to be like, hey, I'm having a good time. I like to care about people. I like to see what's going on and be present. Just make those forces so big that any forces that don't help you, they're like gone. Pops, what do you think of that?
I really like it. I've been having a little trouble with focusing, even though I'm sitting here trying to focus, but I really like it.
Maybe we could all try to tell ourselves a story. Like Dark Hyper told himself they're a great Buddhist. Maybe you could tell yourself a story. So I imagine myself, it's sometime in the future, and I am having a great time wherever I go. I'm a wonderful meditator. I've made beautiful peace inside myself. By giving yourself something that you can envisage, it gives you the ability to feel it more and to see what you're going to practice. Which brings me to the next topic I wanted to cover, which is the topic of acceptance. So as we move through life, I want to be able to inspire you to be envisaging awesome things. But that has to be grounded on this idea of each moment is okay. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I was once going to a yoga class that was just wildly advanced. I remember as I was lined up outside, the two people in front of me were like, "Oh, it's your first time." And they kind of laughed a little bit. They're like, "This is just going to be just wild. Don't worry if you can't do any of the stuff, but just try." And I remember like they were like flipping around and holding postures for just so long and so strong. And I was like wobbling all over the place. And you grab your foot and put it over your head. And I was like, just had my foot here. And I ended up just kind of laughing at myself. But the thing they said of just keep trying, I just kept doing that. And it was amazing over the course of a month or two how wildly my body changed and my balance changed. And I'm sure that's because I was in an environment where people were doing amazing stuff, and I had this attitude of, hey, just go with the flow, just enjoy it. And I'm also probably sure that some people went there and saw these people doing wild things, and they just thought, I could never do that, and kind of discouraged themselves. And my hope is to inspire everybody here to envisage your happy, blissful, confident self. But I would never want even a moment for you to like judge yourself or compare yourself or feel let down that you haven't done enough. So some might see it as a paradox, but I actually see it as like just super practical to be accepting and envisage awesome at the same time. So if you're in a yoga class and we're supposed to be balancing, I want you to try and imagine that you've got awesome balance and find it. And if you're falling over, just make every bit of your mind be like, all right, I'm just going to keep trying and I'm going to enjoy it. Maybe have a little laugh. The same thing with your meditation practice. Every moment as enlightened as possible. And I just got distracted. I'm sitting in a temple and thinking about some other thing. All right, cool. Things to learn every moment, as enlightened as possible. Oh, wow. I just tapped into P. What were we talking about? Oh, wait. Every moment, as enlightened as possible. Like it's a journey you play with yourself. You set yourself towards something awesome. Gives you a lot more chance for awesome moments. And you be loving and kind and patient with yourself. Talking about acceptance, it doesn't only apply to with ourselves. I really like this perspective that hit me at one point. When I think about the world and all the people, everyone is who they are because of what's happened to them. I could say, they could be kinder, they should be kinder, they could be more reasonable, they should have learnt this philosophy that I knew. But the reality is they haven't, or they're not. They've had experiences that made them who they are. And the perspective that hit me is that right now, and everything in the past, the only emotional response that makes sense is perfect acceptance. I can look at stuff and be like, oh yeah, we could have learned how to help those people more, or this is stuff we could have done to make it better. I can learn from it. But emotionally, the only thing that makes sense is to completely accept that is how things have been and then how they are right now. And then into the future, what my intention is for myself, or how I treat others to hopefully be a positive influence on them, I can make that as loving and positive as possible. And so when that comes to thinking of others and situations, I hope that's really clear. All we can do is accept. And then I also hope you take a similar approach with yourself. And I want to couple that with, not just being everything about me is just things that have happened to me, and things I've practiced. It's not who I really am. I'm just accepting that that's where my current habit set is. And then that gives you this springboard to be well, what do I want to practice now? And if you ever see an old habit or an old feeling coming up, just be hey, well, that was just what was there before. What do I want to practice now? Somebody in the community reached out to me this week, and they were asking about they'd had quite a hard time, some tragedy in the family, and lots and lots of change and hard stuff to go through. And they said that the meditation had been helpful, but it had been far from enlightened, easeful perfection. And they asked us to talk about the idea of going with the flow, or being more accepting of what's happening. So I'd like to apply what I was just saying when it comes to how we treat ourselves, with one change, how patient you are, or how comfortable and confident you are with people, or that thing I was saying about accepting what is and then setting the intention for what comes next. I hope that we all take this attitude of enjoying life, going through what is happening with a sense of, hey, in this moment, I'm just going to be present, bring my best to it. There are some schools that say a similar kind of philosophy, and the outcome that they imply is hey, if you're really hurting, just that's life. That's not what I'm implying. I also hope as much as possible you bring mindfulness, you bring love, you bring patience. You bring your enlightened creativity whenever you can. And at the same time, just have a sense of acceptance. Right now, this is how things are. One moment later from now, I could take a breath and come into peace. I could watch my mind and suddenly find my state of consciousness change. One moment from now, everything could be different. But right now, and everything in the past, the only thing that makes sense is complete acceptance. So as I was saying, I really want to inspire you to be excited, to explore. How much could I practice? How happy could I get? How confident could I be? How fit could I do? How many triple backflips could I do? I mean, I've never done a triple backflip. But being excited to envisage and explore while also being kind and patient and accepting with yourself. Being able to imagine being confident and relaxed and spreading good vibes in every social situation. And when other thoughts come to mind of like stuff that'll be hard, being able to just be like, hey, I'll put that aside. I'm choosing what I'm doing with my mind and with my feelings. Things from the past, hey, they happened. But now I'm choosing what I want to practice. And I really want to reiterate this idea of choosing what I want to practice. When someone hasn't experienced a brain program or like, wow, I'll forge to be different and whoa, I'm different, often we'll choose what seems reasonable. You know, I'm really shy, so I'm going to choose to be a little less shy. That's not the choice that I'm talking about. I want you to step into that part of like, hey, wow, whatever I practice, I could get there. So if I could choose anything, if I could drop all my current emotions and habits and I could choose anything, what would I then choose? And I hope that's a lens that you take into every part of your life. How happy do you want to make each day? What do you want your friendships to be like? What do you want to learn? What do you want to put your creativity into? Let's start to move into meditation. So let yourself get really comfortable wherever you are. Close your eyes. And some of you really felt that idea of complete mental, emotional freedom. If I could be anything, what would I choose? So as you move into your meditation, just try to connect with that place of infinite potential with each breath, each moment. And for everyone else, just let yourself feel a deeper sense of peace with each breath you take. maybe you just notice, wow, peaceful breaths, it's already working. Gonna just take more and more peaceful breaths. Or maybe you didn't. But I invite you to just forge ahead. Hold that idea of a peaceful state of mind, peaceful body, peaceful breaths. And just watch as each breath becomes more beautifully peaceful. And I invite you to say to yourself or to imagine something like, hey, I watch what I think and feel and what I practice. And it's exciting to practice who I would want to be. Oh wow, if I see an attitude about myself that's not nice, I'll try practicing something else. I'll see that unhelpful attitude and be able to label that. Just a brain program from the past. Make space for something new. So I'm going to try and take this meditation to a special place. And I invite you to let yourself be carried away with the positive ideas and feelings as much as possible. Make of them whatever you can envisage as best for you. If some ideas seem further than you can conceptualize or feel, that's okay. Treat it as like a seed that's been sown into your creativity that will continue to grow and blossom. So what we practice each day, let yourself imagine just a baseline of peace, happiness, having a good time. If peace, happiness, having a good time doesn't sound like your optimal, let yourself just imagine, what if just your moment to moment was the optimal you choose? Maybe it's excited, maybe it's strong, maybe it's wonderfully transformative. There's just part of your day where you're pure bliss. It's part of your day where you're a driven leader, part of your day where you're hilarious, part of your day where you're musical, part of your day where you're enlightening yourself into infinite tranquility and samadhi. Imagine that whenever you think of your mindset, all of your creativity, all of your confidence, your most empowered self just steps into what you're choosing. I choose to be peace now. My whole self becomes peace. I choose to be a good student. I actually do love to learn. Yeah, and I know it's possible to be really intrigued and engaged in every lesson. I choose that. I know there are people who love exams. Whoa, what's that mindset like? Wow, I choose that. I choose to be relaxed and confident everywhere I go. When I'm with people, no matter who, I'm just present with them. Driven by confidence and ease. I feel that good ideas, interesting topics, kindness just automatically come to mind. I just enjoy myself with people. I love to make people feel good, and they can feel that. I'll just be quiet for a little while. I want you to imagine your baseline every day. Just you practicing kinds of feelings you want, kinds of interactions you want. Imagine how you practice meditation, how you practice mindfulness and awareness. Not just your meditation in itself, but how do you think about yourself as a meditator? Imagine you practice that your meditations you look forward to them and you are fascinated by your mind. And you bring beautiful intent to each moment of meditation. And you can feel yourself transforming and cultivating. And even in the moments that you don't, you know it's happening inside of you. You're just excited and in awe of the beauty of positive practice. To change yourself, to change the world, to have a positive impact on all around you. But let's get a little bit bigger. What if you imagined you with perfect mindfulness in every moment? You tapping into infinite compassion, perfect acceptance of everybody. And even if you don't perfectly understand everybody, you know that if you knew everything that happened, you'd perfectly understand them. So you just have a feeling of perfect understanding, perfect care and acceptance, love for all beings. And this empowered awareness just gives you this strength in every moment. You can just ask yourself, what's the wisest response I could have right now? How could I talk to the people here that will bring peace and good vibes? How can I see each situation to enjoy it, to make the most of it? You're just forging your way through life, bringing good vibes, bringing love, happiness, awareness, and positivity. Let's just all take a moment for every one of us to try and imagine being as enlightened as possible. There are attitudes and states of mind and feelings that are more wonderful than I could ever put into words. Let's just have a little bit of time to imagine it, envisage it, forge ourselves into being it. Imagine giving yourself a beautiful gift of meditation every day. Training in yourself that you are a mountain of unshakable power and goodness, an ocean of peace, a being of perfect mindfulness, choosing your state of mind and your feelings in every situation. And you're also a being of perfect acceptance. Any moment, anything that's happening, you're loving and patient and kind with yourself and those around you. And as much as possible, use those moments to just remember coming back into your enlightened self. And make the majority of the thoughts and the feelings be bringing you into that enlightened self. And so the acceptance and the love and the patience just permeates through every part of you. If your mind has wandered, set the intention. One positive thing from today. I'm just going to practice it right now. If your mind is still in your enlightened self, imagine if you felt this every day, more powerfully, maybe just a little bit more enlightened, or maybe 1,000,000,000 times as enlightened. Unshakable presence. External things cause no reaction in you. You're able to choose how to be in every moment. You are full of love, full of joy, full of creativity and purpose. And for the next little moment, if there are any self-instructions that you'd like to give yourself, any positive things you'd like to say to yourself: I'm a good student, I'm an enlightened being, I'm patient, I'm kind, I'm relaxed wherever I go, or anything like that, anything from today or anything you've been thinking of or anything that arises right now, just say some of those things to yourself. Maybe putting it into words is bigger than any of the other ideas you could have. If you try saying to yourself, I have a good time wherever I go. You just say that a few times until you feel that happening. Maybe you could take this moment to remember any of the ideas that seemed helpful and then make them your own. Say them to yourself. Feel them to yourself. Change them so they're even better for you. Just remember and re-feel and re-experience. Maybe you had a moment where you tapped into being an infinitely enlightened being, unshakable, pure wisdom and goodness in every moment, not reacting to anything, just always choosing. Maybe seeing that, you feel a beautiful love to want to meditate and retouch that state of mind throughout the day. Maybe you saw feeling relaxed and happy wherever you go. And it's so beautiful that you want to practice it many times a day. Or you want to imagine it feeling even more at ease, even kinder, more comfort. Or similarly, whatever other positive ideas arose to you during today's session, let yourself feel them, love them, set some intention to revisit them and practice them and grow them. And as we start to move from the meditation, I just want you to have the idea that every positive idea that you've heard, that you're just going to keep growing it. Every positive message you gave yourself, you'll continue to say it and feel it and envisage it. Consciously and subconsciously, you'll remember it and craft it to be even better. Whether it's in a formal meditation practice or carrying self-instruction cards and reading them 3 times a day, or whether it's just noticing your thoughts and continually making them feel better, be better, and transforming the ones that don't serve you. Whichever of those contexts, just bring love and hope and positivity. And in a moment, we're going to come out of the meditation, and I'd love it for you to share, to affirm the transformations you've just begun to cultivate. Perhaps you want to say, hey, I'm a great student, or I'm full of love. Maybe you want to share a nice moment or an image you saw in the meditation or an insight you had. Let's just have a little bit of time to simmer in the source of the meditation of our minds and just relive and share with each other the goodness and the beauty of this time. So I'd like to share that I was trying to take us to this point of pure mental empowerment, where we completely knew that every moment who we are is our consciousness that gets to choose. And as I mentioned, being a billion times more enlightened and being unshakable power, I felt that. And it's wonderful. I'd love to hear anything else someone would like to share. Claxon?
Yeah, I sort of want to try the brain programming to be more relaxed. I want to remember to do that. And then I haven't been meditating every day, but I also want to do that. To remind myself to set aside some time for me to do that. Small things, but...
Thank you so much. I want to come back to both of those points. Right now we're just sharing. So after the sharing, can you remind me of that?
Sure.
Someone else like to share how they felt in the meditation, or Trianta?
That was just me stretching.
So your body felt really relaxed. Good.
Oh yeah. That was me sharing. All right.
Scientific cat?
I just felt my mind.
Oh, Pups?
I just felt my mind leading towards a feeling of peace. It felt like there was this like haze of all these different thoughts in my mind, and it just felt like the haze was slowly clearing and everything was just settling to a calm. I think I'm gonna continue my meditation actually after the class ends.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I hope that that feeling of settling is something that you continue to revisit until you are infinitely enlightened. So, X-Blade, we just finished a meditation and people are just sharing how they felt or anything they saw or any ideas they had. Scientific Cat, what was an interesting idea that stood out to you during the meditation?
You know, sometimes you have those days where you're impatient and angry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today was one of those days for me, and I don't like those either. And I just reflect, trying, why am I be angry? Why do I feel that way? I know. It,
Did you have some sense of peace during the meditation? Like letting go of the
yeah,
anger?
yeah, it actually really helped.
Wonderful. I hope next time you're having an angry day or a frustration, you just remember that peace. Like it just comes back to your mind, and maybe even the feeling hits you, and you're like, oh yeah, good to snap back into that. Well, I'm glad that you got to join us after one of those days, and hope you know that we care about you, and I'm really glad you got to have some peace after that day.
Thank you.
I hope that the idea we talked about before the meditation of acceptance and understanding really are a powerful way of seeing things or emotionally responding to things. And maybe if you look back at the day or the people or whatever's been going on through that lens, it might change how you think or relate to the situation and the people.
Yeah, and the worst of it is I don't like to feel like this, and at some point you start hating yourself for feeling like this, right?
Well, part of the theme for today was self-acceptance and self-kindness. So I really hope if you ever see that judgment about yourself, is you just tell yourself, hey, I'm going to choose what to practice. It might not be perfect straight away. I'm going to be kind to myself as I do it. If I'd had a really angry few days and I told you I was starting to hate myself, what would you say to me, Scientific Cat? Maybe even if you don't know what the words to say, I hope you feel what you'd feel for me. I know what I feel for you is like, hey man, we care about you. We want you to feel good. We're sending you some love. And I hope you could feel
I
that
know.
towards me. And
I know I'm surrounded by amazing people, lovable people, and yeah.
and I hope you give yourself that same care and well wish and love. one thing I found also really helpful is if we're asking ourselves why too much, we can be like tangled up in anger or some other unhelpful feeling. And trying to figure out why, at least my experience, sometimes there was an untangleable knot. So spending time on the knot, it's just like touching the angry knot more. And so I ended up just having to say, hey, I'm going to put this aside and just try and focus on, well, the quote I used at the time was, okay, I'm choosing now, I'm the master of my mind. I'm choosing to feel okay, I'm choosing to feel good. And that's just what I'm going to keep focusing on. If any of that other stuff comes up, just for a while, or maybe forever, just going to drop it. I'm going to focus on what I choose. And hey, I want you to know that it happens to everybody, that there's times where stuff is happening or our internal stuff has gotten us into an unskillful state of mind or unwholesome state of mind. And I really hope that you know what I'm saying right now. Give yourself love. Choose what to practice. I hope next time any of this happens, these words jump into your head. Hey, what do I want to choose now? I'm going to remember to take some breaths and tap into peace. I'm going to give myself a hug. I'm going to remember people who care about me and believe I can be peace and patience and strength and awesome. What do I choose to practice now? What do I choose to practice now? Okay, I'm going to give myself a few breaths of it. And I'm going to be patient and gentle and kind with myself. And I want to say that in the meditation just now, you had some time of peace. I don't know how much or how deep the peace was. I hope it was profound and amazing. But I want to remind you that the more often you meditate and tap into those nice feelings, the more they take over. The more that becomes how you feel all the time. So please revisit these good feelings often. Claxon was saying about finding the time to meditate each day. Something that can be really helpful is to have some kind of routine. Like perhaps you wake up, you go and sit in your meditation spot, and it's the first thing you do in your day. Or some people find that it's better to wake up and exercise straight away, so you're energized and invigorated, and then meditate. Some people like to brush their teeth and then meditate. But if you have any semblance of routine in your morning, putting the meditation into that start of your day routine can be awesome, because then it's just automatically there. And it could just start with 5 minutes a day. Everyone can fit in 5 minutes. And then once you're like, whoa, I'm loving it. I want to have more than 5 minutes. I want to go deeper. I want to feel the peace more. But you've just got that thing every day, 5 minutes. And then as you want to do more, then it just gets better and better. Claxon, you actually said two things. One was about finding the meditation each day. And then
Other was, brain programming. Take that up, and sort of the first slide I was going to put in it was just moving about relaxed all day.
nice. Yeah, well, I hope every time you read that it feels really good.
I bet.
And if you've had a day where you're really angry and frustrated and you read it, hope you just say it a bunch of times. I'm relaxed and peaceful through the day. I'm relaxed and peaceful through the day. I'm relaxed and peaceful through the day. And you just like say it and focus on it until the relaxed and peaceful overtakes the angry or the frustrated or whatever else is going on. And I hope that any time you do that, like reiterate it and feel it, you can get into it enough that no matter what was going on before, you get into the tranquila. I'm moving with my day, relaxed and feeling good. And you get to feel it every time. And I wish the same for you, Scientific Cat.
Well, I have to go, so see you next time.
Thank you for joining us. Everyone, I think we're going to have our closing meditation. I'll make it a quick one, and then we'll wrap up the session. So I just invite everybody to get comfortable in your seat. And set the intention. Positive ideas. Self-transformation. Being the master of my own mind. We're just starting a meditation, so feel free to join us. And everyone else, really set that idea. Hey, I'm going to go into the meditation just for a couple of minutes. And really give myself a gift. Imagine if each time you think of meditation, you just remember this sense of peace, this sense of empowerment. And just dive in with your breath. I can give myself beautiful transformations in an instant, and I deeply respect the beauty of practice, of growing something, of powerfully forging different pathways in my consciousness. I just invite you to say to yourself, I give myself beautiful meditations. And then say it again. I give myself beautiful meditations. I give myself beautiful meditations. We're just going to finish with a moment of dedication. Anything you learned tonight that sounds good, any positive feelings you cultivated, or states of mind that you stepped into, just dedicate. Keep practicing them as much as they deserve to. give them the love and the time and the creativity that would be most awesome.